young kid, privileged to be raised by a father who's universally recognized as one of the greatest athletes the world has ever seen, and a champion, by the way. He's still black. We don't like his brashness. We don't like his absence of humility.
Stephen A. Smith is sounding the alarm again. And this time, he's calling out the NFL for allegedly blackballing Shedeur Sanders in the 2025 draft.
And because of his swag and his bravado or whatever, y'all gonna turn against him. How about y'all should have drafted Shedeur Sanders earlier because of that alone? I'm not talking about at the expense of his skill. I know he's got to have skill. That's not what I mean. I'm saying rather than look at all of those things as a negative, how about looking at it as a positive? You got a primetime Deion Sanders. His son is going to be motivated to perform at a higher level. He is all about performing at a higher level. He would be in his son's ear, imploring him to listen to his coaches, imploring him to play better, imploring him to be dedicated and focused and on point. Did you ever think about that? Of course not. Because, ladies and gentlemen, as times change, they remain the same. Young kid, privileged to be raised by a father who's universally recognized as one of the greatest athletes the world has ever seen, and a champion, by the way. He's still black. We don't like his brashness. We don't like his absence of humility. We got to teach him a lesson because we got to make sure he understands under all circumstances, we still run this. We're the bosses, and we can put our foot on your neck any damn time we want to. That's what happened to Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders over the last few days, spanning 5 rounds and 143 picks. That's what happened. It was a check hook. Stay in your lane. Know your position. This is the National Football League. You ain't running a damn thing this way. You will be humble. You will conduct yourself with humility. Nothing is given to you. Everything is earned. And even then, we'll decide whether we want to give it to you or not. That's how they treated Shedeur Sanders.
He's not holding back either. According to him, Shedeur's jaw-dropping slide from a top 10 lock to getting scooped up in the 5th round wasn't just bad luck or bad interviews. It was straight up calculated. Smith claims it was a cold move by the league's mostly white ownership to put both Shedeur and his father, Deion Sanders, in check, like they needed to be humbled or something.
I believe they all came together in a KK Ku Klux Klan type of clandestine meeting, and they decided, allegedly, I believe, that they were going to embarrass, humiliate, and sabotage both Deion Sanders and his son, Shedeur Sanders, on draft day.
And it ain't just Steven saying this. Dr. Umar Johnson took it to another level, calling the whole thing racial discrimination. He even said Shedeur and Deion should lawyer up and sue the NFL. That's how deep it's going.
So a number of things happened. The number one thing that didn't happen was there was not a collusion message with the NFL owners.
Okay, what? Okay, a lot of people think that.
But don't get it twisted. Not everyone's riding with this conspiracy talk. Plenty of voices, ex-players, analysts, and scouts are flipping the script and blaming Shedeur and his dad for the mess. They're saying Shedeur came off cocky, skipped major interviews, and acted like the draft was just a formality. Meanwhile, Deion was out here stirring the pot too, publicly naming which teams his son shouldn't play for. Like, who does that during draft season?
That kind of energy, that kind of message, that insatiable appetite to send and cement that kind of imprint on this young man has to be, at least to some degree, about his father. And let me tell y'all something about Deion Sanders real quick. He is confident as hell, supremely so. There's very little you could tell him because the brother is smart, he's studied, he's learned, and he's sincere with what comes out of his mouth.
The Shedeur Sanders scandal, as I'm going to call it, not a scandal on his part, but a scandal on the racist NFL part, to me is a reminder to every black man in America. No matter how rich, no matter how wealthy, no matter how famous, you are still a ninja in this society. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, I believe, allegedly, was also involved on this scandal to embarrass, humiliate, and sabotage both Deion Sanders and his son Shedeur on draft day. I believe that all 32 NFL team owners and their executives and NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, I believe they all came together in a KK Ku Klux Klan type of clandestine meeting, and they decided, allegedly, I believe, that they were going to embarrass, humiliate, and sabotage both Deion Sanders and his son, Shedeur Sanders, on draft day. This was the NFL plantation slave masters. This was the NFL's plantation slave masters coming together to remind Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders, and Black America that you have no say-so here. You have no power here. And if you ever think that you are our equal, we will destroy you. Art, by sabotaging Shedeur and pushing him to the 5th round.
So now it's got people divided. Was this the NFL sending a message to Deion and Shedeur? Or was the league just keeping it real, saying, you haven't proved yourself yet? That's the big debate right now. Let's not forget, Shedeur Sanders was hyped to be a top 3 pick in 2025. First round money, Billboard star, face of a franchise, that kind of buzz. But instead, he dropped all the way to the 5th round, picked 144th by the Cleveland Browns. That free fall stunned everybody and kicked off a full-blown controversy. And at the front of the storm, Stephen A. Smith, shouting loud that this wasn't just about some bad interviews or a big ego.
Tell him what does Shedeur Sanders need? What do you hope to get out of the NFL to help you reach your maximum potential as fast as possible?
All I need is opportunity. Simple. Yeah. Whatever franchise want to change their franchise, and there's no doubt who to go with. I've done it over and over and over, so you'll be a fool not to pick me.
And Lewis mentioned again,
if you ain't trying to change the franchise or the culture, don't give me. So you should know history repeats itself over and over and over. And I've done it over and over and over, so it should be no question why an NFL franchise should pick me. You think I'm worried about what critics say or what people got to say? You know who my dad is? They hated on him too. So it's like it's almost normal. Without people hating, it's not normal for us. So we like diversity. We like everything that comes with the name. That's why we are who we are. I mean, how many times did Raul get touched?
You said what?
How many times did Raul get touched? There was able, like, of course, whenever you're able to run the ball consistently and whenever you're able to, then that opens up the pass, you know? But it's just like, you got to understand, like, what your team good at. So it's like, why would we keep running the ball if, okay, we out there and we get in a situation where it's a must get and we don't get it?
Right. Are those kind of like 4th and 1 conversions that haven't gone your guys' way in the last couple of weeks? Is that kind of playing to everybody's mind? Is that kind of something on your mind when thinking about, advancing the ball and whatnot?
Nah, I'd rather, if we're going to go down, I'd rather go down swinging, honestly.
Stephen A. Smith didn't just stop at calling it shady. He's saying the NFL straight up conspired to humble Shedeur Sanders. And it wasn't just about draft rankings. It was a power play, loud and clear.
Took him off. And they took him off because the owner said, take him off. I don't want that guy. Shedeur Sanders just torpedoed himself. His attitude off the field at the combine, his dad didn't help him either. He was on podcast talking about, this is my son. If I can get him to where I want to get him to, I'm going to do that. But, when you listen to this kid talk right prior or at the combine about if you want a new culture in your locker room, I'm the guy to do that. I can turn it around. I mean, he's very high on himself. And I think he was very off-putting to many, many coaches and general managers in the league. And I'm telling you right now, and I know this after talking to 3 different personnel people in the NFL this weekend, they didn't even have him on their board. They took him off. And they took him off because the owner said, take him off. I don't want that guy. I don't want this entitled person on our team. And I don't blame him.
According to Steven, this was a warning shot fired by the league's mostly white ownership, meant to check both Shedeur and his legendary father, Deion Sanders. A message that screamed, "Stay in your lane!" Let's be real. Deion ain't exactly quiet. He's bold, proud, flashy, and walks like he's the main star in every room he steps in. And that rubs some folks the wrong way. The way he controls his narrative, calls out critics, and refuses to play by the usual rules, that doesn't sit right with the old heads running the show.
Until day 3. I spoke last night with one general manager who is considering taking Shedeur Sanders today. He pointed back all the way to March 2024 and something that Shedeur's father, Deion Sanders, said on a podcast talking about both Shedeur and Travis Hunter, saying that if they are drafted by a team that they don't want to go to, he's going to step in and pull an Eli, meaning force those players to not actually go to that team and try to get them traded. Throughout the pre-draft process, Shedeur Sanders very much proceeded as if he was dictating to clubs where he was going to go rather than how the draft works, which is the other way around. And there were a bunch of opportunities missed at the various checkpoints through that pre-draft process.
Stephen A. even took it further. He said the whole hit on Shedeur might not even be about him. It might really be about Deion. Coach Prime has been shaking the college football world since day one, flipping the script and building his own spotlight. But that kind of bold energy, not everyone in the sports biz is ready for it. Steven says these NFL execs don't need to huddle in secret rooms or whisper plans in back alleys. They got their own silent codes. You step out of line or act too loud, they'll quietly shut the door on you. Letting Shedeur slide down the draft? That might have been a slick way to check Deion. Like, all your hype and media buzz doesn't count here. But Steven wasn't done yet. He lit up social media too. He dropped a bombshell on X, saying someone texted him claiming what happened to Shedeur felt just like the Colin Kaepernick situation. And Steven agreed. He wrote, "Someone just texted me this message, and they are absolutely correct." Nobody's buying the idea that this was just about talent evaluation anymore. That narrative, dead. Then boom, Skip Bayless stepped into the fire and co-signed Stephen A.'s collusion claims, straight up saying the NFL was trying to put Shedeur and Deion in their place. This whole thing's blowing up like crazy. Even former Congressman Jamal Bowman came through to back it up. He said the league is shook by Shedeur Sanders, not because of how he plays, but because he's a confident, powerful, young black man who knows his worth. Bowman posted a video speaking on Shedeur's slide down the draft board, and the caption, that hit hard. He said, "The NFL doesn't like Shedeur Sanders because he wears gold chains and talks like a rapper." But Bowman wasn't done. He laid it all out. He said they ignore the fact that Shedeur is a leader, smart, mentally tough, and still completed 77% of his passes with no offensive line and zero run game. Yet somehow he's labeled entitled? But Eli Manning wasn't when he straight up told San Diego not to draft him? They say Shedeur ain't athletic.
You have said that if the right team does not pick him, that you will intervene.
That's my son. It's not like who I would like for him to play for. It's a couple teams that I won't allow him to play for. It's almost like you got a child that's going into an occupation that you already dominated in. Like, come on. And you don't think I'm not going to sit there like a navigational system and tell him, take a right there, take a left right there, take a, not that, not that. Oh, no. Like, that's who I'm called to. That's my son. I'm not going to let my son get down in no foolishness.
But you and I both know these coaches, these owners, right? You've been in the rooms.
Right.
The owners, billionaire owners,
yes,
will often say, well, this is a young man who should be making his own decisions. He's got this helicopter dad.
Not my son.
But Joe Montana, Drew Brees, and Tom Brady weren't track stars either. Bowman called it what it is. America still fears strong black men who come from something and don't bend to the system. And that right there, that's what's setting this whole controversy on fire. Then Dr. Umar jumped in like gasoline to a flame. He named NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and accused him of teaming up with the owners to humiliate Deion and Shedeur on purpose. He said the whole thing was a coordinated move to make an example out of them, to send a message that breaking the mold isn't welcome in their league. But he didn't stop there. Dr. Umar went all in, saying Deion and Shedeur need to take this to court. He said they should sue the NFL for trying to sabotage Shedeur's future just because he's a strong, young black man who refuses to play by outdated rules. This ain't just draft drama anymore. It's turning into a full-blown war over identity, power, and who really runs the show. Some fans are riding hard for the collusion theory now, saying the NFL basically exposed itself. Why? Because they admitted they didn't vibe with Shedeur's attitude, calling him arrogant and entitled. That's wild. Folks are saying it's like the league showed their hand without even realizing it. Word is Shedeur skipped both the Shrine Bowl and the NFL Combine workouts. He chose to bet on himself, focusing on interviews and lighting up at his pro day instead. But according to some draft insiders, that move might have backfired, big time. Boomer Esiason, former NFL quarterback and longtime sports talk veteran, dropped some heat on his WFAN show. He said coaches and GMs across the league felt like Shedeur was too into himself, like he came off off-putting and full of ego. And he didn't stop there. He pointed a finger at Deion too, saying Coach Prime wasn't helping with all the big talk and power moves like he was running the draft board. Just weeks before the draft, an anonymous NFL coach from a top 7 team spilled some tea, saying Shedeur came across as brash and arrogant in their interview. That bomb got dropped by former ESPN reporter and NFL insider Josina Anderson, who immediately clapped back. She said, "I'm disappointed to hear that a quarterback's coach from a team drafting in the top 7 referred to Shedeur Sanders as brash and arrogant, and made that opinion known to several people." She wasn't having it. Then Todd McShay, a respected draft expert, stepped in to confirm the storm. He said 2 separate teams told him flat out that Shedeur acted like he didn't care what they thought during interviews, and not in a cool, confident way either. He said it didn't come off as professional at all, and that's not all. Other league sources pointed to Shedeur's media interviews as more proof that his vibe was rubbing folks in the NFL the wrong way. They didn't like how he carried himself, like he was already the star, and they were just catching up. Now fans are torn. Was it really about his attitude? Or is there something deeper going on here? While reporters were out here asking about 4th down conversions and play calls, the real heat was coming from fans and commentators backing the collusion theory. They're pointing out something that's been brewing for years. When white quarterbacks show swagger, they get called competitive or natural leaders. But when black players like Shedeur show that same fire, suddenly it's arrogant or a problem. That double standard's got folks fired up. One fan didn't hold back. They posted, "People acting like Shedeur Sanders' attitude caused him to fall is hilarious. Baker Mayfield was a menace in college and still went number 1. Number 1 overall. Hate Shedeur all you want, but he's clearly being blackballed." And another fan added, "They say Shedeur Sanders needs to be humble, but no one tells Joe Burrow to be humble. No one told Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady to be humble either. This isn't just about draft rankings anymore. It's about how confidence gets coded based on who's showing it. But still, not everyone's riding with the collusion narrative. A big group, especially some former NFL players, are saying the drop had nothing to do with race or confidence. Instead, they're pointing fingers at Shedeur and Deion for acting like they were running the whole show. People are saying the league didn't like the way they moved, like they had too much control, too many demands, and way too much media noise. NFL legend Chris Carter came out and slammed the collusion claims. He shut it all the way down, saying there was no plot, no secret agenda. According to him, the issue was simple: too much off-the-field chatter and not enough focus on the league's process. He straight up called out Deion and Shedeur for stirring up too much attention and pushing their own agenda too hard. So now the debate's split. Was it collusion, or just the NFL pushing back against 2 guys they think came in too loud, too fast, and too proud? Then NFL reporter Tom Pelissero dropped a subtle jab too. He hinted that Deion was partly to blame for the mess, saying Coach Prime was moving like he could choose where Shedeur got drafted. That rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Remember when Deion went on the Tamron Hall show back in February and said there were certain NFL teams he just wouldn't let Shedeur play for? Yeah, that statement echoed loud in league circles. Apparently, some higher-ups didn't appreciate a college coach trying to steer the NFL's draft process like he was calling the shots. And now, more fans are starting to question the whole collusion theory altogether. Instead of pointing fingers at the league, they're turning the spotlight back on Deion's approach and how Shedeur came off in those crucial pre-draft interviews. One fan fired off on X, responding to Stephen A. Smith like this: Deion Sanders refused to let Shedeur work out at the combine, bombed interviews, and told teams not to draft him unless they were ready to change their entire culture. That's not collusion. That's teams passing on a player who thinks he should run things from day one. And another fan doubled down. Racism? The first 3 picks were black. 80% of the draft is black. Come on! This isn't racism. If Shedeur projected as an elite QB, teams would have snatched him up. Was Bronny James falling to nearly the last pick racist? Did LeBron throw a fit? No. You go where you fit and where teams actually want you. Meanwhile, NFL insiders are piling on too. Big-name NFL agent Lee Steinberg shut the door on the conspiracy talk. He told TMZ Sports that the idea of owners blackballing Shedeur is flat-out nonsense. According to Steinberg, NFL teams are desperate for talent. They're not turning away legit players over personal drama. He said it straight. Teams want guys who help them win. That need overrides everything else. So for him, the idea of collusion doesn't hold water. To him, Shedeur's drop wasn't a scandal. It was just business as usual in the NFL draft world. NFL agent Lee Steinberg kept it blunt. He said if there was some kind of conspiracy, it wouldn't matter anyway. Teams would still draft a player if the talent was there. He believes Shedeur just didn't find the right fit. Plain and simple. Even former ESPN president John Skipper came out and shut down the collusion talk too. According to him, teams just didn't see Shedeur as a first, second, or third round kind of pick. Skipper added that some coaches probably didn't want to deal with the Deion Sanders effect. That big energy, the headlines, the constant spotlight. Not every organization is built for that kind of noise. But here's the twist. There's a whole crowd of fans who think this whole story ain't as deep as everyone's making it. They believe the truth is way less flashy than all this collusion drama. For them, it's business, straight up. If Shedeur was really that good, the NFL would have overlooked the attitude, the ego, everything. We've seen players with way more baggage go top 10 just off raw talent. A lot of people are now saying Shedeur just didn't have the kind of college resume that matched the way he was acting. Confidence is one thing, but backing it up is another. Sure, Deion had that same loud, cocky swag back in his draft days, but let's be real. He was a once-in-a-generation type of athlete, and some fans feel like Shedeur just isn't on that level. And that's the problem. When your confidence outweighs your production, teams start questioning if it's all worth the headache. That's why some fans say they totally get why he dropped. The talent didn't match the attitude, and no team wants to deal with weekly media pressure from Deion demanding his sons start over seasoned vets or better performing QBs. To top it off, people were side-eyeing that post-draft party Shedeur threw with a red carpet, designer fits, and suitcases full of cash. Like, seriously? Some teams probably watched that and thought, yeah, we dodged a bullet. But what about you? What's your verdict on this wild draft drama? Was Shedeur Sanders blackballed? Or just not that dude? Smash that like button, drop a comment, subscribe for more heat, and we'll catch you in the next one.